Hi, welcome to Mind Academy. We're in AI in Power BI series. I'm Paweł Potasiński. Today with me is, as usually with AI topics, Paweł Ek-Czerniakowski, our data scientist. And we'll just to remind, we shown you several features of Power BI like key influencers visual, quick insights, like Q&A. But today we're going to step into the data science area a bit.
Yes, today we're going to show you AutoML in Power BI Premium services, which can be used by analysts to make some machine learning models very fast.
Okay, so let's try AutoML in Power BI data flows. Okay, so here we are in Power BI service. We have our workspace with dedicated capacity, so Power BI premium content here. And what are we going to do in order to bring AutoML into the game?
First thing we have to do is create a new data flow.
Okay, so Dataflow is something that has to be created in order to use AutoML in Power BI. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, let's start with creating Dataflow. Now, Pavel, we are going to use the same data that we presented last time, bank customers, right?
Right. This will be the same as for Q&A in Power BI.
Okay, so as you can see, there are a bunch of options in Dataflow, but we are going to define new entity.
Yes.
Correct? So let's try and create new entity. The entity you may understand as, let's say, data set or collection of data sets.
Yes.
Okay.
We have plenty of possible data sources.
Okay.
We can connect to files, we can connect to databases, to data flows, to Azure.
Lots of services.
Yes.
Basically, most of the connectors that you have available in Power BI Desktop are here. So, which is ours? Which is
we have our data in SQL Server database.
So, is it SQL or is it Azure SQL?
This is SQL.
SQL database. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what's the name of the server? Yeah, it's actually Azure SQL database. Doesn't matter which connector you use actually. So what's the name of the database? Do you remember that?
The database is ADS.
ADS.
Demo SD.
Demo SD. Okay.
Yes.
As you can see, we've been using this database before, so I have already my username in place as well as password. So you will not see our credentials on the screen, which is probably the best idea in terms of security. So let's try to connect to this database. And of course, for cloud data sources, you don't have to rely on on-premises data gateway, which is also an option. Okay, so there are a bunch of tables. As you can see, we have access to our database. So where is the data set? Bank customers.
Bank customers is our data set.
Yeah. So I'm just selecting bank customers, and I can see the data already.
Yes.
So in terms of predictions or let's say machine learning, as far as I remember, there's subscribed.
Yes,
Yeah,
subscribe will be our variable that we will try to predict.
Okay.
Which Power BI will try to predict.
Yeah. So in data flows, you don't have any other option than transform data. You have to click on that actually to go into the next steps. So let's click on transform data. You cannot load it right away. And then you're stepping into the interface that is very similar to what Power Query brings.
Yes, this is exactly Power Query. So we can do the any transformation that we can do in Power BI desktop.
So do we need any transformations here? I guess not.
For this data, we do not need any transformation.
Okay, so I will just click Save and Close. Just to remind you, there's an option which we have already shown you in one of the previous episodes, AI Insights, which allows you to access cognitive services, but this is not this episode. Save and Close. Yeah, we have our data. We have the let's say entity prepared and ready to use. Sorry, just we have to add the name. Any preferred name? Bank customers.
For example, yes.
Okay, let's save it as bank customers. We can add optional description, but it's our data flow.
Okay, so we can see the table of bank customers by
so we see the entity, and if I click on the entity name, I can see the fields, the attributes described by the data types, and eventually I can do several actions with this entity. One of them is of course I can edit transformations, but there is also a brain icon which allows me to run AutoML, apply ML model on top of this entity. So that's our option probably.
Yes.
So we're going to add a machine learning model on top of this entity.
Yes, and we have the entity bank customers, and we have to say to Power BI what do we want to predict. So our outcome field.
As you can see, if you present Power BI with many possible fields that can be used in terms of predictions, then it will not be able to choose for you, right? So it's us who has to point which field has to be chosen for the algorithm to predict, right? So
yes, because in our data set we can, for example, predict what job has a customer. It could interest us, but this time we will try to classify the subscription of the deposit. So the outcome field should be subscribed.
So remember, AutoML doesn't mean that everything happens automatically. Some things you have to specify yourself. So I just subscribe and select next. Okay, so after I click next, what happens?
We have possible to choose a target outcome. So whether we want to predict that somebody subscribed the deposit, or we want to predict whether someone won't subscribe our deposit. So we can predict yes.
So we are going to predict, or we are going to support our decisions and actions when the customer has some potential for subscription of our deposit, right? That's our
right. Okay. And we can
rename labels.
Labels, yes. So we can subscribe and not subscribe, or yes and no, for example.
Okay, let's call it subscribed and not subscribed. That's probably the right name. And of course, a pretty much important thing, this AutoML feature auto selects the algorithm for us. So it's choosing binary prediction for implementing this particular scenario. So we don't have to choose the algorithm. It's actually it's maybe not algorithm, but the approach class of algorithm. It's chosen by the AutoML. As you will see in a moment, underneath also the algorithms are chosen for us by AutoML. Okay. So we're going to step forward. Okay, we're actually in the next step, select data to study. And Pavel, can you give us some comment on why some of the attributes, some of the columns are selected and the others are not?
Yes. In this case, the AutoML try to figure out which of the variables can in most influence our target variable subscribe, influence the most. Which correlation are the biggest between which variables and the outcome variable, and choose for us some of the variables.
Okay, so normally as a data scientist, you would have to make this choice on your own, right? You would have to check the correlation between the attributes, the variables, and decide which are meaningful for our analytics and which are not, right?
Yes, but of course in AutoML we can choose our variables as well. So we can.
I can still select education even if it's disabled by default by the algorithm. Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Definitely.
So let's stick to what Power BI AutoML actually decided for us, and let's click next. Okay, I have to give the name to my model. Any ideas?
Bank customers.
Bank customer prediction maybe. Oh, model maybe.
No, model.
Okay.
Yes.
Now this is pretty much important, I guess.
Yes, we can choose training time for our model. It could be between 5 minutes and 360 minutes, so 6 hours. On default, it's 2 hours. Of course, the longer you can read, the longer you train your model, the more accurate the results.
So let's minimize it to 5 minutes. It's not about to show you the very accurate model. It's just to show you that this works, and you can influence how long the training will take. And if you want your model to be the most accurate, you can scale it to 6 hours maybe. Okay, let's save it and let's train this model. So as you can see, yeah, Pavel, can you give a comment on that, because we saw that in this entity, in this data flow, actually, we have new entities. Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Can you comment those two?
We have training and testing data.
Yeah.
So AutoML split for us the bank customers data set for two data sets that on one it will train our model, and on the other we will take the information whether our model is properly for new data.
So yeah, so another step that you would normally do as a data scientist is being done for you by Power BI AutoML. Okay, so now we are waiting for our model to complete training, right?
Yes. So we have 4 more minutes.
Okay, we will spare this time, and let's speed up the time for our attendees. Okay, so we have our model trained, and now let's see what happens here. So first of all, in the machine learning models, we see bank customer model as we described it. And if you have this model trained, there's this icon view training report active, and we can see some reports for the model, describing the model and the whole training process. So let's wait for this.
Yes, we have 3 pages here: model performance, accuracy report, and training details. The first is model performance, in which we can see how the model was evaluated. And what is its performance? So the area under the curve, AUC, on the test set is 72%.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing is the confusion matrix. So it shows us information.
So here we have the confusion matrix.
Yes. We can see what was the number of true positive, so predicted subscribed and it was actual subscribed, or actual not subscribed and predict not subscribed, as well as the information on false false classified data on the test set. So that predicted as not subscribed, that was actual subscribed, and predicted subscribed and actual not subscribed.
Yeah, so the better the model is, the biggest ratio between true and false, positive, both positives and negatives we have, right?
Right. The ideal model should have should have zeros in the predicted not subscribed and actual subscribed. And
we are quite far from being accurate, the most accurate with this model, but keep in mind that we trained it just for 5 minutes, so it's far from being ideal. And yeah, so 72% is the area under the curve. And let's click on the button here because we can see the top predictors, right?
All right. So the key influences.
Yeah.
The top predictors by influence, and of course we can click on the variables. So we can see the percentage of subscribed records for each
distribution, actually.
Well, yes, the distribution for subscribed records.
So it's very similar to what Key Influencers Visual does in Power BI. Okay, let's move a bit lower. We have also cost-benefit analysis.
Yes, we can see when, for example, we would have the credit scoring data. We can.
So imagine I have 1,000 people in my data set.
Yes.
And I assume that every single action I take with around prediction of the deposit subscription costs me, like, let's say, $10, and I can earn with every single subscription, let's say, 25, right? Imagine this scenario. So in this case, I see the chart is reaching the maximum somewhere here where the profit is the highest, and the population it provides me is something like 7.5%, and the cost is higher than yeah. So so it also allows me to simulate how high should I position, let's say, pricing or whatever, in order to bring any profit to my campaign, for example, right?
Right. In this scenario, it would be very hard to get any profit.
Yes, we are somewhere. This is just like the error area for this experiment, for example. So let's move to accuracy report. It's actually more descriptive than any card of this report.
Yes, it informs us more about what is ROC curve, what is cumulative gain charts.
Okay, so we can actually see the ROC charts. So can you give us a comment on that, Pavel?
Yes, so in the yellow with we have ROC curve of our model, And this two we have ideal model and
the yellow one.
Yes, this
this
is
ours.
our. Yes, so we can see that it's nearer to random guess than ideal model.
So random guess is just going with the straight line from 0 to 100% of population, while the ideal model is just requires us to just let's say focus on the small percentage of population in order to have the whole insight on prediction, right?
Right.
Okay. So and the third one card is training details.
Yes.
So we can see actually what was the final algorithm chosen, and here we have profited soft voting classifier.
Yes.
And we can see what was the distribution of training and testing data sets. We can see the iterations, how the learning process looked like.
As we can see, the model quality, the first guess of
was
Power BI
quite okay.
Was quite close to the final, so it was some maximum model quality wasn't much higher than the first guess. And we can see the informational, detailed information of parameters that was used for final machine learning model.
Yeah, and as well as data featurization.
Yeah.
So after looking at all those stats, we can actually apply this model, which means that we will use this model against the data coming into the entity, right?
Yes. When we click apply model, we can choose this input entity, and the entity that we will have as possible to choose will be the entities that they have the same attributes as the ones the model was trained on. So the only one in this situation will be the same entity.
You would require normally some additional data set which is based on the same schema as bank customers.
Right.
We don't have it, but imagine that you have new bank customers coming into a let's say new table or even the same table, and we can produce the output columns prefixed with some let's say some name for new columns. So this is not this will not produce a single column. It will produce a bunch of columns with some description, some numerical values, and so forth, right? And threshold?
And threshold is the information in what scores should be predicted as positive.
Yeah.
So it's basically the choose between recall and precision.
Yeah, but still there is a single column with the output of the prediction, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's described by some additional attributes. Okay, so let's click apply model. And actually that causes that we have additional entities. There is an entity called bank customers enriched bank customer model. So it's our entity enriched by the model working with predictions. So yeah, I was referring to this set of columns here. We have a set of columns actually. Outcome is our, let's say, prediction true false, but also we have additional attributes describing the whole process of predictive analysis here. And we have also the explanations here. This contains the explanations that actually they are produced on top of our entity by the model just to describe how model works, right? So I don't think it's much interesting for us. This one is crucial if you want to operationalize your model, right?
Right, and for example, doing some reports on new data.
Okay, so let's wrap it up, Pavel. Okay, so Pavel, what do you think about this AutoML feature in Power BI Premium?
I think that AutoML can be used by analysts and data scientists to speed up of choosing algorithms and training model in Power BI.
Okay, keep in mind that Power BI as a BI tool can provide you with some reports, right?
Yes, definitely. It's very useful to see accuracy reports, for example, in Power BI. So it's a very good feature for this type of analysis.
And also, we encourage you to track the roadmap of AutoML in Power BI because some things have already been announced, like for example, export to Python notebooks and because stronger cooperation with Azure Machine Learning Service. So I think this can be quite powerful feature of Power BI. Watch us, subscribe us, and we hope to see you in the next episode of AI in Power BI. See you.
See you.